What is going on? It's Tuesday, and you know that means it's time for another Spines and Spirits podcast. I'm your guide tonight. My name is Adam, and I have no clever saying tonight.
And this is Gerald with a G again once tonight.
This is Christy with a half-dead orchid.
So the Spines part of our name, you know that we're still on The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. It seems like we're going to be living in this King Killer Chronicle universe for a while. Gerald, you want to tell us about the spirits?
Like once again, the spirits we're talking about ain't the ones that go bumping at night. Nor the ghouls and goblins and nothing like that. It's the spirits that take a nice long sip on. Once again.
What are we sipping on tonight, Gerald?
Oh yeah, we still sipping on the small batch 1792, y'all. Still the same bottle.
So where we left off last week was chapter 34. You know, I was feeling a little bit bad. You could tell it in my voice, so I apologize for that. But we're back tonight. We're going to pick up our baggage at chapter 35 and continue on. Chapter 35 is called A Parting of Ways. It is a very interesting chapter in that we get introduced to Imre. You see that Kvothe gets a partial refund back for being so helpful throughout the journey. You even learn a little bit about Sialdish tradition here. But more importantly to me, I think you can skip all that and jump straight to Denna and her invitation for Kvothe to come to Annalyn and teach Jocelyn, because what she says is 7 words. And here we go again when she says, you should come to Annalyn with us.
Honestly, I don't think it really dawned on me until when I was like rereading this to do this podcast, is where Jocelyn was like, I'm gonna make you one of my wives. And I'm like, okay, isn't she just barely a teenager? Like, she can't be that old. So I don't know. The whole thing put a bad taste in my mouth. I was gonna say, like, I've been trying to like map out like maybe like a little bit of a diagram of where Kvothe and even where Denna have kind of like traveled and stuff, and just map out the whole kingdom. So it's interesting to see. This, I think in this chapter it's revealed that Annalyn was like 300 miles north, and that she said it's paved. She said the rumor is or something that it's paved with gold, which is kind of
the roads are.
Huh?
The roads are paved with gold.
Yeah, roads are paved with gold. So it's one of those things that make you kind of wonder if it might be one of those, one of the kingdom that was left behind in the story.
Kvothe talks about how he didn't realize that he wasn't as worldly as he thought he was.
So really moving through this chapter, Denna's got her invitation, and then they go through and they have their little cute, fond farewell, where Kvothe says he's going to the university. He was really close to giving it all up for her, but he's not going to. And their exchange, their farewell, is a pair of 7-word phrases going back to each other again, where she says to him, I'd better go. Watch for me. And then, he tells her, I'll see you where the roads meet. What I think is kind of crazy to think about in that particular piece, though, is what did you guys take away from the fact that Denna reacted to the way, kind of intrigued with the way he said it, like, I'll see you where the roads meet, almost like she may have a hint as to what that means? Am I reading too much into it? What do you think?
I think it's more on the 7 words that makes a person fall in love with you. Because if you notice, every time they talk to each other, for a little bit of period of time, Kvothe would say 7 words, and it would cause Denna to pause. Denna will say 7 words to Kvothe, and Kvothe was like, "Oh, I'm stunning." Like you said earlier, he's about to drop, going to the university just to go be with her, and he snapped back into reality. I think it's something to do with the 7 words.
So I understand what you're saying, Gerald, and maybe I'll pay attention to that as we go through. But I almost take it as maybe she has potentially some kind of a similar upbringing when she was younger, where we talked about the what was it, like the waystones being the gateway, and it could be like where the crossing where all the roads meet, and where she's heard the same thing. And that was what my taking behind that was, and I was curious if you guys picked up on that or thought the same thing.
Honestly, I was gonna say, yeah, I thought something similar, but I think it's kind of funny to say that this is one of the few times that Kvothe is really wrong, because he says, like, I just know deep down that I'll never see her again. And sorry, spoiler alert, that it's not the case.
Later on, does he meet the same Denna? Is this the same Denna? Or
I
is
think
this a different
so.
person?
That's a good. No,
I
that's
think
a good
she's always
point.
been this Denna.
Yeah.
No, but Gerald has a good point though. That's saying, like, 'cause she changes her name later. She
But she's still
always changes her
Denna to
name.
him.
Oh, I know we're getting way ahead of, but that's a good point, Gerald.
Something to bring up when we get to that chapter.
Yep.
Gerald can be like, let's dissect this girl.
Yeah.
So that kind of pushes us into chapter 36. Like we said, he's in Imre. Now we get to see the great, the Omethi Stone Bridge, I believe, that, who built that? Where did it come from? Who knows? But also, he is...
Wait, what?
I think he meant Cotton Eye Joe.
Oh,
Is that what you meant?
Yep.
Where did he come from? Where did he go?
Yep.
we're not in the South, folks. Like this.
So Kvothe, as soon as he's here, the first thing he says is like, I'm going to the archives. And as he's approaching the archives, he realizes that there's about 15 buildings that make up the university. Once he gets into the archives, we get to meet, our first, like, band of brothers, I guess if you want to call it that way, where the boys are going to happen. And he sees the full-blooded seal that's sitting at the desk, and that's Willem. And obviously he can't get in because he's got to go through admissions.
The name on the door to the archives. Yeah, I want to touch on it, but I don't think we know what it means, and I'm going to butcher it trying to say it.
Oh, but please try.
That's not what it says, though. But
The Mines of Moria.
yes, the Mines of Moria. Yeah. But that's not what. That is not what. This is not what it said. But we're gonna put a caption where the words are supposed to be in this one. Yeah.
You did better than I could do, so I love it. And I did want to say something about that too, just because I thought it was interesting that he kept saying, he was like, okay, what is that? Is that Temu or I can't remember the name. He was like, it was almost like verbatim the same thing his mom said back when she was trying to guess what the was it Chandrian? I think it was when they said, like, where is that word from? And she's like, is it Temic? You know what I mean? Like, it was almost verbatim, like the way she had said, is that what it is? I can't remember. And
it could just be because, like you said, he heard his mom say it, so he's trying to be smart to himself. So that takes us up to the admissions, and clever Kvothe here is trying to have all the answers, and he does that by cheating. I will say, if you guys want to pick one piece of this to kind of chat about, because I don't want to go through the whole thing because we'll be here all night.
But is it cheating if you get caught? And one of your favorite sayings, Adam, is if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying to win. No, that ain't how you say it. How you say it?
Yeah, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Congratulations, kids.
It's still cheating.
No.
Just so we understand, it's still cheating.
What do you tell Bass? He's like, what happened?
You don't
Back
have
then.
the fulfillment of winning. Just watch Bluey and you'll understand.
Before you
There
said
is
Bluey.
literally a lesson in every episode of Bluey.
One of the masters that I wanted to kind of talk about is Master Lauren. And I thought that it was odd that he asked Kvothe about, what caused the fall of the Aturan Empire. And this goes back to the theory that I think everybody in the world has, the belief that Master Lauren is one of the Emir. And it makes you wonder if he is trying to fill out people that are going through this process, or at least the ones that he thinks are clever and possibly knowledgeable, that may be able to give an answer that, okay, maybe this person I may need to spend some time with at some point later.
I have a theory, but I'm going to need you to do for me, Adam, because I'm about to, I apologize ahead of time, because when I start saying masters of the school, they all going to sound the same. and then I'm gonna take a pause, and I'm gonna say, "You mean this, master?" I'm gonna say, "Yes." So again, so Adam, can you say all of the masters of the school if you can? Do you know the names?
Nope. I know like Exladal. I know Master Arwill. I know Master Kilvin. I know Master Elodin, Master Him, Master Brander, Master Mandrag, Master
You know,
Grand Chancellor. What's his name?
Good, Chad. Oh God, what is his name?
Chancellor.
Shoot, I forgot.
And then I'm missing one. So I get punished, I guess, for missing one.
Yeah.
All right, so you're amazing. I was gonna say like that's killing me because I literally like you know how much I love my Excel sheets, and I've been making Excel sheets for like just different like theories and stuff. And I was sitting there thinking this morning or this afternoon, I was like, I should make an Excel just like a quick little list of who all the masters are, so I can have that list handy for whatever reason. And apparently this was the reason.
Yep.
But I didn't do it. So
Did I say Master Arwill? I think I did. I think that's what I
You
let
did
off.
say
with.
Master Arwill.
The Medica. Okay.
I will say that if you had to take one piece of his admission to the university, that I love how Kvothe was like, I had to be brilliant. I had to show them how well I can learn everything else. And so what if I had to cheat? Because this is the reason why I'm driven.
Yeah, and he learned that from Ben. You know, Ben told him, you know, the university basically runs on two things, and that's brains and money. And the more you have of one, the less you need of the other.
Exactly. I was gonna say, yeah, and the fact that he was like a kid, like just younger, you know, actually a little bit older than apparently Elodin was when he became, you know, a student. But it was the fact that he understood that he was like, okay, I need to either be like super duper smart or have a whole lot of money. I don't have a whole lot of money, so I'm gonna have to like make sure they know I'm smart and cheat in the process. Because as Adam says, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I think the biggest thing I've been curious about is like halfway through this, Master Hem is like halfway through, he's like, oh, I have important things to tend to. I can't be here.
So one of the other things I wanted to mention too is where Elodin looks at him and he says, you know, he feels him look at him, but he says there's 7 words that'll make someone fall in love with you. And, you know, Kvothe says he doesn't know what they are. A part of me wonders this is Master Elodin can see into him, and it almost makes me wonder, and this is a character that we will, you know, expound upon.
Yeah.
Expound.
All throughout this
You like to expound on
this book. So
favorite character.
When he says that, it almost makes me wonder if when he looked into Kvothe, he could see Kvothe. And I think a part of him already knew some of what Kvothe had been through, and maybe he even saw that conversation. And just to mess with Kvothe, I wonder if he said there's 7 words that can make someone fall in love with you. Do you know what they are?
Oh, like so you're saying that you think that Elodin said that to Kvothe because he knew that he was already infatuated with a woman?
Right. So he saw, like when he looks into Kvothe, it makes me wonder if he sees Denna and he sees what he, you know, aspired or whatever, admired Denna. And the first words he said to him were 7 words.
I think that's like insanely far-fetched. Like I really just do.
I mean,
I'm
90%
sorry.
of the stuff we say on here is insanely far-fetched.
I mean, that's probably true. But we're all reaching because, hey, there's a certain someone that has not published a book to help answer our questions.
Why do we have to say this every week?
Every time. You know what?
Every week we have to say this.
Gerald, we wouldn't have to say this every time if he would publish the damn book. But okay, I digress.
And I can cut my piece out, you know, if
we-
it's that far out there. It was just something that I was wondering because I know Elodin can see a lot more than what you...
I mean, I think he can
could
see a lot. I think he can see a lot more, and he probably maybe... I think he was doing that, like, when he asked those questions. I think he realized that there was a spark in Kvothe that may be a good namer, and he was kind of asking, like, just prodding around with just like crazy insane questions, like, because we know later on, like, this is what he does, like, that's that's how you like provoke a namer, or you know what I mean. Like you have to ask like stupid, crazy questions. I don't think like he doesn't have like a crystal ball. He doesn't see who Denna is. He doesn't see like, oh, that he's hung up on some specific girl.
But it could be in his subconscious mind. I think I actually, the more we talk about it, the more I'm like Adam, it's not bad. Kind of does make a little sense, because like you said, he was ready to give rep everything to go for this girl, and he was like, no, I gotta go to university. I need to study. I need to know who the Amir, who the Chandler are, and that's why he's there. But since Adam said that does kind of make sense, because like it seems like it's like it's just on the surface of Kvothe.
I mean, on Kvothe, but how would Elodin know this?
Because when Elodin said, okay, so
it says whenever you know the true name.
Are we talking about like mind reading ability here? Like
we're talking about whenever you know the true name of someone, you understand everything that makes up that person.
Right.
And so if Elodin looks into him, he may already know, about this interaction, or what it imprinted on Kvothe.
And he could not have. I mean,
it's fair.
It's a fair thing. He could have, could not have. Okay. It's a nice subject to talk about, especially make the our viewers use their minds and think a little bit more.
We could put this as another poll.
Yeah, and it honestly makes me wonder more, because we've talked about this before, just like as we've read the book as a group, that you notice these 7-word dances that they do back and forth. And a part of me was like, once Elodin tells him this, maybe Kvothe is ignorantly stumbling for those 7 words to try and find them. But we've already seen it early on that he's using 7 words, and she's using 7 words back. And maybe we're looking too far into it. I don't know. So like once we move past admissions, he is admitted. He gets essentially a 3-talent scholarship to go to the university. But more importantly, like Lauren asks him, is your father Arliden the Bard? And this makes me wonder, do you think Arliden met up with Lauren to get information about Lanray? And do you think maybe Lauren had some of his people kind of looking out after Arliden, and that could be why you see that time frame shift between the time that he sings the songs and the Chandrian actually get to him, because maybe some of the Amir that, again, this is going on theory that Lauren is an Amir, that are tailing Arliden or potentially keeping an eye on him from where they've met up, maybe get split apart because of trees in the road or whatever the case may be, and that gets that gap enough for them to eliminate him.
Well, I'll say that I think that he's seeking knowledge, that people that are looking for like the Chandrian and stuff like that. I think that's what it is. But I like how you put it in your words, talking about, did he meet up with Kvothe's dad? And
so the reason that I think that is because you'll learn later that Lauren is like gathering books from all over the place, and it makes me wonder if
I was trying to remember his name.
It makes me wonder if Arliden has asked the right or wrong people for certain information, and maybe it got back to Lauren. And that's what I'm saying, is like, do you think Lauren met up with him, or do you think some of this information through one of his scribs got back to Lauren that says, hey, there's this bard I met named Arliden who's trying to put together a song about Lanray?
I think that maybe he
met him.
He might have met his dad. Like, who knows? But that's like one of the first clues you get, that's saying that like he's probably one of the Amir, or someone that's trying to hide these names, which is probably hide them behind a certain plate door. We're not gonna.
Well, I'm gonna add this just to shatter what I was just saying, just to see what you guys would say, because I don't think they met. I think it's exactly what I said, that Lauren, one of his people, caught him asking for information or searching for information, because Kvothe even comes back and says, my dad's never considered himself a bard. And so it does seem like secondhand knowledge that somebody would say, yeah, there's this bard that's working on a song about Lanray, and I think we should keep an eye on him.
Yeah. That kind of makes it up, because actually he does mention, I was wondering which troop he performed in, because if you met the person in the troop, I mean, him performing, then you know what true people he belongs to. And that's when, remember, Kvothe got bad. He got pissed off. He was like, "Oh, you was wondering how more I gotta look for this money, and you were asking me about my dead parents. You got some nerve. You need to leave some stupid moment."
All right, in the words of Kvothe, that is low drama. I always hated that part. Like, why the hell? Like, I don't know, just the whole outburst. Where,
well, no,
like,
yeah,
it's just
I
low drama,
agree too.
and it seems stupid to me.
I understand what you're talking about, but you still gotta remember this is Kvothe, 15 years old, still. Actually, you might as well skip the 15-year-old. He's probably still like 12 in his right good mind. I mean, of course, he aged, and he learned stuff in those 3 years passes, but he still hasn't been learning everything. That's like how Ben was talking about. You could be reckless. You just want the straight answer, and to get to the straight answer, you have to take certain roads. You just can't. It's not always a straight answer on that point. So I'm thinking it's not. It wasn't low drama because it was something that was.
And here's the reason why. Is because you can't have it both ways. You can't say, "My master would tell you to ignore my age," and then act like you're younger than your age. You can't have it both ways.
And
that's a really good point. Yeah.
Yes, but that's what I'm going. That's what I'm going with. Kvothe is trying to add. That's what he say. That's how I've been saying. Like, you're clever, but you're too clever for your own good. Certain thing, because he knows what to release him. That's why he said, "Hey, remember your father's song. Beware your folly." And this is Kvothe's always beginning in the folly. Because if he just would have held his tongue, like we know that the older Kvothe would have.
Not even necessarily held his tongue. I think if he opened up to him, maybe
honestly,
what happened to his dad.
I think this is more a flaw on the writer's part than it is on the character's part.
Yeah, I agree on that 100%. Because, like I said, you can't have it both ways. You can't be building this character that's like, you should forget my age because I'm older than my age. Mm-hmm. And then and act like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
So that takes us to chapter 37, which is called Bright-Eyed. Kvothe gets his money. He's crying, or he realizes he's getting money, so he cries and apologizes to Lauren. And Lauren actually takes him to the bursar himself to make sure there's no mix-ups. We also learn at this point that the university terms are 2 months long. They're 88 days. Kvothe gets introduced to Sim, and he ends up getting a bunk in the Muse. This is where you kind of get to meet the rest of the gang, where you're going to be introduced to Sim, Willem, Manette, and then eventually Savoy comes in. And something pretty telling on this is Savoy talks about his lineage going back 50 generations. And outside of what we know right now, this is the purest bloodline that we've seen, right? I mean, this is the one that probably goes back past the fall of Atur, potentially back to maybe even we're getting closer to the Lanray War and everything else, right? Mm-hmm. The only other big thing that kind of happens in this chapter too, before I turn it over to you guys for your thoughts, is he finally gets to meet the guy that we're gonna love to hate, and that's Ambrose Jackass, and he helps rein Kvothe back in to realize, like, hey, you're not hot stuff just because you're being paid to go here. One of my favorite quotes is at the end of this chapter. So if we're going to call this, like, what's your favorite quote of this chapter? It would be, what is it? Anger keeps a man warm at night and pride can spur him to do wondrous things. One of the things that I'll also bring into call out to is there's people that walk up to Ambrose and they say something about the Aeolian, and that's the first time we're going to hear mention of this little place as well.
Simon. Willem, the one that he met already. He's friends with Selim. And we also meet Manette, which is how old did they say Manette was?
I don't remember, but
he's he's old.
Yeah, he's the weird guy hanging out with the.
This is weird. Like, did anyone else find that weird? Like, why? Like.
It goes back to what Kvothe says. Once you try to become arcane, if you wouldn't be wrong to say that we're a little cracked between the edges, learning this stuff, and this is a great example of what this could be possibly. Because he's like, I don't even want my gilder. That's I just want to learn until I die. I want to die here, basically. That's what he goes.
Yeah, Manette doesn't come from royal blood that we know of. No. And so he doesn't have the empty pockets that can keep pulling tuition. And so he's like, if I rise through the ranks, that means tuition's going up.
Yep.
I'm not paying it.
Yep. Which is weird.
Honestly,
Which is weird. He should be able to afford it. Excuse me, Chrissy. He should be able to afford it because he works in the
Fishery.
The fishery, and he teaches in the fishery, so he should make a nice little decent.
I
little
was gonna
pocket
say
change.
it's told later on that he doesn't have any original like patents to himself. I don't know if the word is patents, but either way, it's,
Well, yeah.
you know, he doesn't have any original like schemas. That's what it is.
Schemas.
Yeah.
That's what they call it, schemas to himself. He's like a workhorse. He's not exactly original, but he's a workhorse.
Mm.
And I think he just enjoys maybe, I don't know, maybe this is his retirement home.
It could be, and it could be one of those where he's made friends and he's comfortable.
And this is like the first time that Kvothe finds out. Oh shoot, yeah. Not really finds out, but he learned that maybe I shouldn't be mentioning the Chandring out loud like this because people, you know, I wouldn't, you know, if it didn't happen to me, I wouldn't believe someone saying this too. Remember they was talking about, man, when's the last time you slept? I slept a couple days ago. What day? And it's like, it was a span ago. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if that's crack necessarily. I think
Yeah.
it goes back to what Christy said. I think he's just a workhorse. Like,
Yeah.
you know, he's just constantly working and doing stuff. I don't think it's because of the Arcanum where he's trying to split his mind and build his Alar.
Like the guy is, you know, he's conceivably what, 40s, 50s, and he's
Something
still
like that.
like in college. Maybe, you know, maybe this is Patrick Rothfuss's character.
I actually think
because-
he said it was. I think he said
Did
that
he?
this is the character that he wrote to be like him. So that takes us to chapter 38, which is called Sympathy in the Mains. Mains is described early on as almost like it's absorbing other buildings. Like, I don't know if you guys picked that up, but in the first paragraph, it seems like it says, you know, it started off as this, but now it's absorbed this, and now it's moved over here. So it's just creepily absorbing everything, almost as if this building is alive. There was something else mentioned during this chapter too. I thought was particularly interesting to bring up, and I'm sure Patrick Rothfuss wouldn't have put it in here if he wasn't wanting it noticed. Where it talks about like there's a 10-to-1 male to female ratio at the university, and all the females know each other. They all have to bunk together. I mean, at least it's not one of those macho things where it's like only men get to go to the university and only men get to make a living.
And why the heck are all the masters men?
You know, and I wondered that as
Seriously,
well.
which-
So moving on through the chapter, it takes us into Master Hymns class. And here comes Gerald's threes tying right back in because once class starts, there are 3 students who are late.
Mm-hmm.
He goes on and he does, one of them's a woman, Christy, 33%. You're one of 3 here. And in typical macho fashion, he tells her to close her legs so that way the gates of hell will be closed.
Right?
So the class, you know, him teaches the class, and after class, Kvothe wants out. He's basically like, you know, I'm so far advanced. Like, get me out of here, bro. This is not working for me.
Is this not still the same thing that Ben is like, hey kid, you got promised, slow the hell down. Slow down. You have time to grow. But our Kvothe loves to just run full speed ahead and learning stuff, which I agree with him on this one because why would you want to be in class that you already know the
He's paying for it now, right? It's money.
Yeah.
You know, after he leaves the class, he gets to meet the prettiest girl at the university. He gets to meet Bella. She goes over the rules to an extent on what he needs to do because he's wanting to go in and search and find, obviously, you know, anything that has to do with the Chandrian or the Emir. And so he starts filling out this log, and he starts getting fairy tale books back. And he gets caught by Master Lauren, basically tells him, you know, don't make the appearance of indulging in childish fancy. He does sit Kvothe down though, and he asks him, you know, is there anything that you want to know? You can ask me. And so he asks him about the Emir, and you know, he says I'm probably gonna butcher this. I'm trying to think of what it is. It's like he says Ivare Inem Uge or something like that, or I don't know what it is, but it's basically translates to for the greater good. To
That's
me,
actually
when
pretty nice.
to me, whenever Lauren is talking to him, like, you can tell, like, Lauren tells him, like, I do appreciate curiosity, but it seems like Lauren is feeding him all of, like, the BS that everybody else hears.
He's feeding bullshit, really.
He's not giving him any of those details that he's actually wanting. He's not getting into any of the minutia that Kvothe is trying to find out, right?
I'm thinking Master Lauren is doing this on purpose. I think he's doing this deliberately because after he knows who Kvothe's father is, he searches out. Cause that sounds like he knows what kind of happened to Kvothe's troops to me. And Kvothe was almost ready to tell him, but then he remembers what happened the night before in the chow hall, if you will. But it's like, hey, the Chandrian, you're looking up fairy stories, and so he kind of holds back. Now, if Kvothe would have told him, we would be having a different conversation. What would y'all think if Kvothe would actually say, hey, if Kvothe would actually just say, hey, look, there's a reason why I'm doing this. I know it sounds crazy, but I
think that's what it is, because Lauren knows he's not dumb, right? I mean, he went through admissions and the way he tore through it. I think he had a genuine curiosity about why Kvothe wanted to know these things, especially, like I said, going back to where I think he heard from one of his scribs that runs around that a bard named Arladin is researching Lanray and the Chandrian. I think he wanted him to tell him, like, Arladin was killed by the Chandrian. I saw it.
I think he actually knows that they're dead. Actually, I think, I'm not going to sit there and say he has a hand in it, but I think he has a hand in, like, trying to cover it up. Like later on, you can't find any, you can't read here, later on you'll find out that Kvothe can't find any news about the Chandrian when he's able to actually look into the archives later. And who controls the archives like that? It's Master I told you I'm
Lauren.
something.
It's Lauren, damn it. Lauren.
I'm gonna mess his name up all the time.
I do that too.
I'm gonna say Master L.
I got to the point, Gerald, where I just call him the librarian because I can't remember his name.
He's got his own movie on TNT.
Yes, exactly. The guy from ER plays.
Did anybody else pick up that Master Lauren is 6.5 foot tall?
Yes, he's tall.
He's a big dude.
6.5 foot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Adam, how tall are you?
I'm 6'1.5".
All right.
Not
how
6
tall
and a
am
half.
I?
6 foot.
All right.
But
yeah,
no.
it did. It said he's 6.5 foot tall. So there was something else I purposely left out, thinking one of you guys might mention it, and since neither of you have, I guess I'll throw it out there. This is also the chapter where he picks up the common Dracus, like many habits of the common Dracus.
Mm-hmm.
And we've heard about that a bunch of times. So
it doesn't tell who the author is, though. I looked through that and I was like, that's kind of interesting.
But it does pinpoint, at this point, the chronicler is obviously older because he's already been through here. He's already written the book and left it here. So that takes us to chapter 39, which is called Enough Rope. This chapter, I think, is pretty straightforward. I don't think there's a lot that I need to hit on this because, as people who are watching who have read the book already know, it's all pretty spelled out. So Kvothe gets to teach a class. One of the boys that he enlists to help him is Basil, which is one of the boys that was punished by Master Him. Yeah, and so, going back to the three things that Gerald talked about, there are three things he talks about, which is correspondence, consanguinity, and conservation. Here's the favorite Kvothe of this chapter, which is when the noose is tied, it fits one neck as well as any other. So that's really the big points I guess I had for this. Like I said, I don't think it needed to be rehashed completely because it's pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. I don't think any of our readers are dumb that are reading this. So what do you guys have on it?
Kvothe teaches the class how to technically to make a simulacra, a little wax doll, and which is kind of dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. And he makes a doll of him, I did enjoy the fact that Kvothe, excuse me, when Kvothe was shaking Master Him's hand at the end of the presentation, Him was like, "You dirty little bastard, you," and it's like gripping his hand so tight. And Kvothe was like, "Yeah, he's crushing my hand, so I'm gonna look back at the brazier where the wax vomit is." And he was like, "Oh shit, yeah." So I thought that was kind of cute and funny. After doing this, he does feel a little worried. He's like, "I just met the enemy of the masters." One of the masters.
He did, and he's gonna be paying for this for a long time. So that takes us to chapter 40, which is called On the Horns. And guys, we are officially on the horns because this is going to be the last chapter that we have for you this evening. Kvothe is, going to the mess hall. He's talking to his buddies. A runner comes to tell him, "Hey, you need to come. You're going to be stood before the masters." I can't remember the exact room he says to go to, but I know Manette's the one's like, "You're going to be on the horns." This is the first time that we hear malfeasance used. Him is also getting him charged with... Okay, he's charged with malfeasance and unauthorized use of sympathy. So something the Chancellor says when he's taking roll for all the masters that are there. He says, all 8? Nope. All 9. Do you guys think that this is because Elodin has recently been locked up? Or do you think that this is because maybe there's always only been 8 and they kept having those like draws with ties and that's when they made it 9? Or why do you think that he was so cavalier in saying like all 8? And then he's like, crap. Nope. All 9 are here. And when he says all 9, I can just picture like him looking over and Elodin being like,
well, no, I think this is a serious matter going on. Now, Elodin would most likely probably be a little smile, because I think it does say he was smiling when they named Elodin. Elodin's like, "I'm all smiles. I'm here, Master Namer. I'm
but
pleasant."
Why would he say all 8 when there's 9?
Well, I don't know if Elodin gets locked up on a regular basis, but I would say that Elodin probably is like, "Yeah, I don't have time for this. I don't, unless I actually have to be here."
But then it's not. Then it's not all.
No.
And that's the underlying word here is all. He says all 8, and he's like, "Wait, we have 9. All 9."
And so I kind of assumed it was like an afterthought because they don't expect him to really participate that much.
I saw it, but I was like, okay, yeah. I just thought, I was like, well, maybe, you do make a good point because, like you said, maybe I thought always Elodin was like, yeah, I don't want to be bothered with this deal, not today. Yeah, I'll just go home. And then, like you said, he would normally like, all 8 or 9 of the masters are here.
Whenever he goes, obviously, on the horns, they go through everything that's happened. There's some banter back and forth between him and other masters, and they end up charging Kvothe or whatever. But then when they ask Kvothe to defend himself, it brings him back to his mindset of Ben telling him like, "What? No defense?" And so he defends himself, and once he does, it completely changes the landscape of what the charges are. And now he's charged with reckless use of sympathy. And what does this mean? Well, instead of being expelled, now he's being admitted to the Arcanum, and he's going to be whipped. That's pretty much what this chapter is. Outside of all that banter back and forth, I kind of glossed over.
No,
so what do you guys have on that?
Super arcane, obviously, that he would be getting whipped for whatever reason, any reason, honestly, at that point.
And I do agree with that to an extent, because if they just saw that this master has lied to that extent, it's kind of BS that they're still going to whip the kid. I mean, I understand, I guess, that rules are rules, but I also wonder what book that Master Lauren is quoting from, because he's so robotic with it when they're like, Master Lauren, what's the punishment? And he's like, not to be whipped more than 9 times.
It really is messed up. You're not wrong. Like, obviously, that's horrible. If there was at least one woman on that board, not even just a woman. Like, Adam, seriously, would you be okay with that?
With what?
The lashes. Like, would you be okay with?
So if I'm Kvothe, let's be honest. If I'm Kvothe, and knowing what I've gone through, and I'm getting to this point, and they're saying, yes, you can skip all of the preliminary crap to be a member of the Arcanum, and all it's going to cost you is, what does he get, like 2 lashes, 3 lashes?
3.
I would be like, sign me up, buddy. I'll hang on to that.
But it wasn't
Pennant
necessary. He had proven himself to be part of the Arcanum. He
So
didn't need to have the lashes.
he does, but at the same time, I think this gives him, and we'll see that next week's episode, where it gives him a chance to prove his toughness, because he is the youngest, and this is the way, like, he can show, like, I am not one to be trifled with, and I think it allows him to gain the respect of people, the fact of him just accepting it and saying, like, you know, this is the way of things, and here we go.
My biggest thing is, okay, I'm attending this school. I understand I have to follow the guidelines that y'all set out, right? But if I'm about to be expelled, they ain't no goddamn way y'all whipping me.
I'm telling you the same thing. Like, I was just about to say that. I was going to say, if they tell me you've got to be lashed 13 times and you're going to be expelled, I'd be like, hey, bro, I'm expelled.
Yeah.
Peace.
What kind of? Which I can't understand why they say that is.
So yeah, rather than beating a dead horse, one thing that I will talk about is this kind of ties in not just to this chapter, and it's not talked about in this chapter, I'll say as well. It's not talked about really in any chapter. But one thing that I think is pretty interesting is I didn't notice it, I guess, to an extent to bring it up, but like the more we get into it and the more that we see different areas and different buildings, there's no electricity in this world, but the magic system that he's built into it has electricity, and I think that was pretty neat the way that he did that. You know, with his sympathy lamps.
It's like how Master Kieran was asking Kvothe, how do you make an ever-burning lamp, in his when he was trying to join the university the first time, and Kvothe gives him the answer of every glowing lamp.
Yeah, and I should have said that. It's not necessarily the sympathy, but it's sympathy lamps. But it is like the sigildry that goes on. But you know, they're meeting with the masters. When they're in this room, it doesn't mention windows or anything. He's on the horns, but it's lit up, and it doesn't mention torches. There's nobody had to go in and you know, light torches. It just works, right? And so whenever he goes into the archives, it's lit up, but it's not by fire. It's, you know, different buildings that they go into, there's no open flame. Yeah, there you go. There's no open flame. It's all through some kind of magic, whether it's sympathy lamps or sigildry or some kind of, you know, something that I guess that would have come out of the fishery, right?
Yeah, innate powers.
Yeah, and it's able to power things without having power or without having electricity.
I get something, yeah.
Like, they didn't have dams powering it or windmills or anything like that.
A solar power and stuff like that, yeah.
And I did appreciate that he built that in, because it's pretty neat the more that I'm trying to picture these scenes in my head, how I see them lighting up. And I'm like, because in my head, if he's in this room with masters, I see like the hanging, like the little things that have like the candles and it's lit up and it's dim because it's dark. Because, you know, he says when he leaves it's dark, but it's not. Everybody can see perfectly. And that's because of the lamps that are in there with the runes and everything on them. So I just wanted to comment on that. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. How are you a master? I mean, because obviously the Chancellor has to keep him maybe on a shorter leash than he would have loaded, which is crazy, right? What we're going on, because every time you see Kvothe against the masters, the Chancellor is like, him, you're acting out of line. You know, present yourself as a master. You're acting petty, and how is he still hold his role as
That
a
doesn't
master?
mean that he's on a short leash. Yeah, that doesn't mean he's on a short leash. That just means that he is not conducting himself in the professional manner that a master would.
But again, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I'm talking about even the other masters are like, really, him? Why are you even got this? Brought us up this. This is
That's
kinda
not
stupid.
true because he's got his own clique that back him.
One person out of the whole 9 actually supports what Master Him that ends up doing later on in what he's doing now. He's like, I'm not going to say his name. I'm not even going to attempt to say his name. I think it was the mathematician one that's with him. Anyway, I digress. Everybody's leaving. Him and Challenger are having kind of a moment to themselves. And I thought that was interesting. And the Challenger, they was like, you see like not like a buddy.
As far as his character goes, like I always love, like later on it says something about how he has like a surprisingly like raunchy sense of humor. Like I always took that as like the guy's kind of perverted. I don't know. Like it just
What's up with
Yeah,
you?
but
I mean, if it says
you want
raunchy, that's what I
every-
would think too, but I don't know what you're
Whoa.
talking about here.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Sorry.
We're
You
gonna
want
cut
every
this.
you want every old man to be a dirty old man in this book. What's going on?
Let's
Every
be
old man
honest,
is a
all old
dirty
man
old
is a
man.
dirty old man.
Thank you. Every old man is a dirty old man. Have you met Adam?
Have you met my boy Randy at work?
No. Have you met Adam?
Yeah.
Just like, for crying out loud. I love him. I married him. He's the best guy I know. He's a dirty old man.
So thanks everybody for tuning in. So thanks for joining us for this episode, guys. The name of this episode again is The Less Talented, named after chapter 36, Less Talents. You can find a link to all of our socials down in the description. Gerald, what do we want them to do before they leave?
So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and also hit that notification button. Even though we do this every Tuesday night.
Christy, did you want to hit them with a wave? Like Gerald said, hit that like and subscribe. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.